Undercurrent, sponsored by John Hughes in Victoria Park. Choose your station before you choose your program. Absolutely.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Undercurrent. I'm Christy Molliker. Well, first up on tonight's show, Janae Tomlinson investigates why so many West Australians are being forced to live in tents.
In the past 12 months, the rental prices in some Perth suburbs have almost doubled. This rental crisis is a concerning situation for many families who are living in tents until suitable housing becomes available.
There's a huge demand for rentals across the Perth metropolitan area, but it's patchy. It's not in every single suburb is there a demand for rentals. It's particularly high in the areas where there are rentals for $300 to say $500 a week.
We've certainly seen a purchasing boom back in 2006 in the market, and everyone was rushing out and buying properties, lining up to buy blocks, etc. Today that's swapped to the rental market. We're seeing people clambering over rental properties, lining up, making multiple applications. It's what I'd call a rental boom, and why I'd call it a rental boom is because people are paying above asking prices, and when people are paying above asking prices in any market, usually that's indicative of a boom. A lot of people are acting somewhat irrationally in a sense, and you can understand why, because they're trying to secure a home. If they attend one property and miss out because there's 3, 4, 5 people in the line, and they attend another one, they miss out again, it does start to become rather scary, and that scariness, or the fear if you like, does cause people to then react and overreact and perhaps pay above asking price for the next one because they've got to secure a home to live in.
Charities like the Salvation Army are having to help out more Perth families who are experiencing housing stress.
Rental crisis has come about through a number of different factors, but very simply it's about an demand of housing in this state. We have a significant amount of people coming into this state every week seeking housing and accommodation, and unfortunately our needs and what we have available in housing is not able to fulfil that need.
Western Australia is experiencing a huge internal migration. People from overseas and interstate are coming here because there's jobs here, there's mining and resources work and industry work in those industries, and we've got a lot of people coming out of Melbourne, Sydney, even Queensland, who want to be in WA, and they're putting huge pressure on the rental market. Add to that increased migration in Western Australia, and it's taking properties away from you might say the locals, who'd otherwise be first in the queue.
So consequently the rental prices have gone up because there's a lot more demand, and those people at the bottom rung of our community and our society that have the least amount of resources are the ones that suffer the most.
When we have a purchasing boom, it lifts values and it creates wealth. Rental booms don't create wealth, they just drain money or move it from one point to another, and causes a lot of heartache in a housing market which is supposed to be a prosperous state.
Living in a caravan park is not a cheap solution, and with most parks having a maximum stay period, there is high pressure on people to find proper accommodation.
Even the rent on caravan parks could be anything up to $300 a week for a piece of grass and a caravan to live in.
More than likely the latter part of the year won't be as tough, but I don't want to guarantee that. I don't think we should be saying, oh, it'll get better soon. Rents will not fall. In fact, they might likely increase, demand might lessen a little bit.
The situation is there now, but it's not there forever, and it's certainly not there long term. There may be a short-term need to fix it immediately now, but I think things will improve in the next 6 and 12 months, and they'll be in a lot better position over that period of time.
With such a high population growth and competitive rental market, the housing stress can really be too much for some Perth families. I'm Janae Tomlinson, reporting for Undercurrent.
Well, while our newspapers, magazines and even some of our favourite television shows are always showing us the new fad diets and fitness crazes, in reality the rate of obesity here in Australia is on the up and up. Next up, Fernanda Mizzen investigates.
We're fat and we're getting fatter. About 2/3 of adult Australians are either overweight or obese, and 1/4 of our kids are overweight or obese.
We've been looking at the literature about what it is that makes people overweight and what's causing the obesity epidemic, and it comes down to 3 main factors. How much physical activity someone does, how inactive they are. So if you're completely sedentary, that's an independent risk factor for being overweight.
We're eating too much and we're not exercising enough. So we don't exercise as much as we used to do. We're a car-oriented society. We sit behind screens, we work off screens, we watch screens.
From all over the world, we find that if people live in more walkable neighbourhoods, so places where there are lots of shops and services, there is good public transport, then they're much more likely to be less overweight. So they're much less likely to be slimmer and much less likely to gain weight. Also, the food environment's important. So if people have access to lots of fast food, that's also a risk factor for gaining weight. But what we've been found in Perth, for example, that we don't see that as strongly, mainly because we don't have very walkable environments.
Obesity affects our health in a whole range of different ways. First of all, it affects our health just by not being able to get around, by not being physically fit. We lose in all kinds of ways.
I think lifestyle is incredibly important, but you have to look at what's contributing to our lifestyles, and that is the way what's really contributing to the epidemic is the fact that we've changed the environment in which we live. The way food is marketed, the way it's promoted, and the way, what's available. So there's lots more choice now, which is often high-fat choices.
The most significant one is premature death. How they get there can be many different pathways. There can be gallbladder issues, particularly in women, cardiovascular disease, heightened risk of stroke.
With various cancers, with the rising tide of diabetes, and then with a whole host of other lesser health problems.
But mentally, I think it can be very negative for many people. Their body image is affected, their self-esteem, self-respect.
And once upon a time, people in their 40s used to get it. Now we're seeing children turning up in paediatric wards with late onset diabetes, which is diabetes 2. And that's related to lifestyle, what we're eating.
Similarly with adults, what we're now finding with children, and because the rate of obesity is so high and is growing continually, which is a sad thing to see, it affects them very similarly as adults. So what used to be adult diseases are now becoming childhood diseases. You've now got children with cardiovascular issues in their teens, which just was unheard of.
But simply because of obesity, our children are going to face a shorter life expectancy, and that's a terrible legacy to leave our children.
So it's really a very significant problem, and something that I think it's not just one sector that can solve it. It's actually a whole of society approach that's required to actually change it.
Beautiful weather here. There is no reason why people can't be out every day doing some walking, swimming, running.
Our health is generally good. We have a top-class health system. So there's really no excuse for some of the problems we meet, except our own behaviour, our own decisions. We can't blame other people for them.
People lifestyle seems to be the main factor when it comes to overweight and obesity. I am Fernanda Mizzen, reporting for Undercurrent.
Here at WTV, we are operated almost solely by volunteers. And to help us keep our station on the air, we are right in the middle of our membership drive, in which you can assist us by becoming a WTV member. For more information, visit our website, wtvperth.com.au. And speaking of budgets, this week Janae Tomlinson took to the streets of Perth to see exactly what you think of the brand new West Australian budget.
This year's state budget was recently announced, with promises of a cost of living assistance and a new future fund planned. We hit the streets to get your opinion on the budget, and if you think there's anything the government has overlooked.
Just talking about the state budget today, do you have any opinions on it at all? No, I don't currently.
I don't think nearly enough money goes towards education or towards the hospitals that we need.
Why do they keep putting money on electricity, gas, etc., etc.? He says it's only $3 a month or something, but it's just every month. It keeps going up and up and up.
From what I've heard, it's going to be okay. Yeah, I've heard it's going to be really big for the miners and they're taking a big tax out of the millionaires, but in WA. But as I've heard, the mining is causing quite a stir in budget-wise.
Is there anything in Perth you think maybe the government should be putting more money towards?
I think they should be putting more money into like public hospitals and the children's hospitals in particular.
Mental health services.
Creative arts. Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely, education.
General price of living in Perth is mega expensive. I would get these bludgers off the dole. They keep putting money to these people who collect welfare and etc., family tax A and tax B, and they shouldn't do that.
Living up north along the coastline, I think we need to do a little bit more along our coastline. I know we don't want to lose the beauty of it, but I think we should have a little bit more opportunities along the coastline.
I think transport needs to be looked into. Perth's urban density is actually really low. We are the same width as Los Angeles, but we have 1/10 of the people. So our transport is really screwed right now.
10% of the budget's going towards roads and transport. Do you think this is an issue in Perth?
Yes, I'm lucky to get the train, but having seen the increase in traffic over the years, yeah, there's a lot more, obviously, people coming into, immigrating and living in Perth and Western Australia, so it's becoming an issue.
A bit of the money's going towards utilities costs, helping families with utilities costs. Do you think this is a problem in Perth?
I think that's fair, actually. The amount the electricity has gone up in, say, the past 6 months, it's massive. So we need help with utilities and things like that.
Absolutely. I mean, anyone that's struggling, we're supposed to be in a boom state, but there's people out there struggling, so yeah, give everyone a hand up that needs it,
People list utilities, cost of living and healthcare as high priorities the government should be focusing on. Hopefully this state budget will ease some household pressure on Perth families. I'm Janae Tomlinson reporting for Undercurrent.
Well, I tell you what, I certainly wouldn't want to be in charge of our budget here in Western Australia. And don't forget, if you would like to have your say on those pressing Perth issues, you can find us in the city every Tuesday around about lunchtime. I'm Christy Mollica. More Undercurrent after the break.
Undercurrent, sponsored by John Hughes in Victoria Park. Choose your station before you choose your program. Absolutely.